Hi, my name is Frank, and I'm going to talk about building a weather station using nerves and a few cool sensors. So a little backstory. I am a little obsessed with wind speed. When I first met my wife, we would sit through storms, and you'd hear a gust of wind, and I'd go, "Oh my God, did you hear that wind?" And naturally, she looked at me like I was crazy. Fast forward 7 years, we'd get a gust of wind, I'd get a text, "Oh my God, did you hear that wind?" So she's trolling me a little bit. And that sparked my wanting to create a weather station, so when she said that, I can be like, yes, it was 52 miles an hour. So I love Elixir, and I thought, well, let's do some hardware stuff. First step, let's monitor temperature. So I went on Adafruit and found a weatherproof temperature sensor, and it was good to, I don't know, like 125 degrees, because we all need that. And then the next step is the wind speed sensor. So this was about $45, and the temperature sensor was about $15, so it's not too much, but you know, I wanted to get some decent hardware. And I went about learning about nerves, getting a Raspberry Pi, installing it, and learning that the temperature sensor was a one-wire Dallas protocol sensor. And luckily, the generous people at the Nerves, or whoever makes Nerves, if you're here, thank you, it's built in. So I just had to create a FW up file that modifies the bootloader to enable one-wire Dallas. And at that point, you would just read from a file to get this information. This is a quick test. You can see a debug message locating weather temp sensor, and I'm just printing out information. Sensor ID is the ID of the sensor, and you can hard code the path at that point, and I can show if I have time. From there, you read the file, and it's pretty easy to pull the data out of. After a little conversion, we have a temp sensor, and I was dipping it in and out of a glass of water to test it. Also, I wanted to make sure they really did sell me a weatherproof one, because, you know, for that $14, you want quality. The next part is I'm not big into hardware. This was my first adventure into hardware. It always scared me a little bit for reasons unknown, but I did not think about digital versus analog when it came to sensors and Raspberry Pis. So the wind speed sensor is analog, and Raspberry Pi is only digital. I had to find a chip to convert it, and luckily we found the MCP 3008. It is an 8-channel, 10-bit analog to digital conversion chip, and here's the layout of the pins. For our example, I'm going to use channel 0 for the wind speed sensor. Now, here is the SPI communication, I guess, layout. I don't know what you really call that, with how you are going to communicate and receive data from the sensor. At the MCU transmitted data line, you're going to have your 24 bits of data you need to send, and underneath it, you're going to get 24 bits of data back. One thing I didn't realize is you do need to actually send 24 bits to get 24 bits back. Otherwise, you're going to get some really weird wind speed. So if we go from the left, you got your start bit, and then you have 4, we're going to call them variables, SGL diff, D2, D1, D0. Those need to be configured for your chip setup, how you're wired your sensor in. And then the rest are X's, which are don't care bits. So send 0, send 1s, whatever you want to do. And what we're going to get back is the lines underneath it, and then I believe it's 14 bits you're going to ignore. You're going to have a null bit, and then the rest is going to be your data from the sensor. So those 4 variables I referenced earlier would be configured using this chart here. We are going to use the first row, which is a single diff. It's going to be a 1, D2 is 0, D1 is 0, D0 is 0. So that's for single-ended on channel 0, and that's what I had the wind speed sensor hooked up to. And this is what a very dirty first attempt at a breadboard layout looks like. You can see the 40-pin GPIO input at the bottom, the wind speed sensor on the left. Where all the yellow and orange wires are going, that is the digital analog conversion chip. And behind it is also something I forgot about, but you need to power the sensor with something. I assumed I could pull it off the GPIO, but that's only 3 volts.
This is me hovering to tell you your time is up.
Oh, okay. So fast forward. That's me testing it with a fan in my office. And that can pull about 1 mile an hour in case anyone's wondering. And thank you.